build a new boat that I don't have room for, so that means I need to pick one to get rid of. And it's going to be my Goat Island Skiff. So before it turns to sawdust for the landfill, and because it's such a popular design, I'm going to talk about some strengths and weaknesses of my boat. I'm apprehensive about doing this video because it means I'm going to cut up my Goat Island Skiff, and my wife loves this boat. Also, I'm a fan of the designer, Michael Storer. I like his approach to designing boats, and I think he has a positive impact on the world of small boats. And I don't want this video to seem like I'm trashing him or his design. So before I go into some of the problems I have with my boat, I'm going to talk about what I think are some of the strengths of the Goat Island Skiff and why it's been such a popular design. So first, it's accessible. The design is easy to build. Plans are cheap. They include instructions on building it with like cleats. The design takes into consideration like the size, the dimensions of materials that people are going to use to build it. For example, panels, they're 16 feet long, just 2 4x8 sheets of plywood, butt jointed together, make up these side panels. So things like that make it accessible. It maxes out the available materials to get the most boat that you can for the materials available. Another way it's accessible is just like this simple build with like a single chine. It's the daggerboard trunk. So in a world where people take maybe thousands of dollars and years to complete their like perfect builds, this Goat Island Skiff makes accessible the design that you can build in maybe a couple months and for hundreds of dollars. Okay, second strength is its size. It's 15 and a half feet long, which is just like kind of like a good like small boat, medium size for 2 people, and like maybe some gear for day sailing or for one person to like dinghy cruise. It's just kind of like a good area for a small boat to be in. It's big enough that it really performs well, but it's not so big that one person can't like easily launch it and control the boat by himself. Okay, a third strength is this interesting approach to a racing shape. Michael Storer designs a lot of like narrow boats. He says that this reduces the wetted surface area to allow for a higher top speed. The Goat Island Skiff, at least on the waterline, is a narrow, deep hull. And so it's got a lot of freeboard, so that although the boat is narrow and tender and tips easily, it's going to heel quite a bit before it shifts water, and it gains a little bit of stability as it heels. So even though it is this like narrow racing shape, it is pretty seaworthy. I've only ever shipped spray. I've never had a wave really come over the side or the bow. So in addition to this, I'm going to call this the fourth strength, is this modern shape where the max beam is moved aft and then it carries a lot of that beam all the way to the stern. So this makes so that it can have a real narrow entry angle that kind of glides up on the plane. It also adds a little stability with that beam back to the stern. But what stands out to me about this shape is that it will heel all the way till the rail's in the water before, and it doesn't really want to round up. So you really have a lot of control as the boat heels. You still have control at the helm, which is really cool. So it is a thrill to sail this fast with that modern shape. Finally, this Goat Island Skiff has a handful of features that are just like detailed and accessible. Like it's got a hollow box mast that doesn't require a ton of effort to build or a ton of skill to build, but it makes a light, strong mast. The cassette rudder, it might not look traditional, but it's an effective solution to the mechanical challenge of steering a boat. I think the dagger board is another effective choice. It's simple to build. It doesn't take up a lot. It doesn't add space to the cockpit, and it allows you to adjust how much board you've got down without changing the center of lateral resistance. So just like attention to detail and features like this, I think show that Michael Storer knows what he's doing when he's designing a boat. So Goat Island Skiff, a lot of strengths. Why am I getting rid of mine? Now I'm going to go over some problems with my boat. I'm going to defend myself first by saying that this build was kind of an experiment at a time that I didn't really know the negative impacts of some of the choices that I was making. So this boat was kind of made to be semi-disposable. First, the first problem with my boat, it's a big one, is that I modified this rig. So the boat's designed to have a single 100 square foot sail, but I modified this to be a catch rig with 2 masts, 2 sails, 67 square feet, 45 square feet. And although that catch rig, when conditions are perfect, is incredible to sail because you just set the sails for a point of sail and it just drives itself, this is the wrong boat for it. That mizzen mast adds weight up high on an already tender hull, and it puts that mast right in the center of the cockpit that already has limited space, and it adds a tangle of lines, and so you're trying to deal with the tangle, just this mess to operate the boat, and you got to get around this mast on this hole that wants to fall into the water. This boat will capsize if you make a mistake just with the regular rig, and so I made that even worse, and I have capsized this with the catch rig up. The rig was interesting, but it's a problem for a boat that works best on a simple rig that it's designed for. I did set up this rig so that the single 67 square foot sail would power the boat by itself, but it's kind of underpowered that way. Footage that's playing is with a 87 square foot sail that moves the center of effort of that sail back a little bit to give you a little weather helm, but it wasn't more than I could really deal with, and really I could put a 100 square foot sail on this and I think it'd be okay. So the rig is the first problem with this boat. Second, I use cheap materials. The kids at the budget lumberyard told me that this was exterior grade plywood, and I don't think it is, the way that it's delaminating. It's got Doug fir for the gunnels. You know, choices like this don't contribute to the longevity of a wooden boat. My third problem is the poor build quality. I customized this build to have a little bit of a different layout, and when I did that, I didn't understand the details of how and where to make a boat strong. I had no idea what I was doing when I built this. I mean, this piece of trim should go on the outside. I didn't put like knees in the corners to brace this, so these corners of the transom are coming apart. I even this glue joints, well actually this cheap ply started to come apart, so I had to screw this back together, and I didn't even go back in and get rid of these proud screws sticking out of that. So it's getting held together by screws. Some other stuff that is just bad build quality. I mean, look at this. I just didn't know what I was doing. This cleat should be supported right here by something under that. Otherwise, what this does is it just focuses all the stress right into this little spot. It almost doesn't really add strength. So mistakes like that show the bad build quality. I'll talk about the hatches in more detail in a minute, but the build quality is bad. It was a learning process for sure. Before I get to the hatches, let's take a look at the bottom of this thing to talk about number 4. I put stringers on the bottom of this, and they are a bad choice. When a boat moves through the water, water flows out at the front and in at the back. And so this boat, when it's going slow especially, water's got to flow over those stringers at the front, flow back over those stringers at the stern. Water flowing over a sharp edge slows things down. And so this boat, when I'm moving slow, it feels like it's got a parking brake on. So the intention of the stringers are that you put this boat up on a rough beach and it protects the hull. But if it's a soft beach, you don't need the protection. So if it's sand, you just put a boat on the sand. But if it's a jagged beach with rough rocks and stuff, they're just going to go around the stringers, and then you're going to scratch your hull up anyways. So the stringers don't do what they're intended to do by protecting the bottom, and they just make the boat move slower. So the stringers are a mistake. In a similar area on the bottom, the 5th problem on this boat, which is mostly fixed now, is that I didn't initially fiberglass the bottom. I just developed a distaste for working with epoxy and fiberglass, and so I tried to build this without it. I still dislike working with epoxy. It's easy to screw up. You have to wear protective equipment. Epoxy goes right through your nitrile gloves anyways, but nothing does what fiberglass does for the bottom of a wooden boat. It just, no other material seals it up like that. and no other material that I'm familiar with protects the bottom from getting banged up the way that fiberglass does. So even though it is tough to work with, and you got to order it, and all the problems with working with real epoxy and glass, it's just worth it because it's so good. My sixth problem is my hatches. Wow, I put them in the wrong places and I built them wrong. Hatches should go along the center line of the boat. That way when the boat capsizes, it's less likely that the water line is going to be high enough to flow into your hatches. I put mine 3 out of my 4 just right at the edges. Also, your hatches should have a raised lip, and then the hatch cover goes over that raised lip. That way water splashes on and doesn't flow into it. I didn't do that. I just cut out a hatch, put it on a lip, and so it's almost recessed into the deck. And so any water that splashes onto my boat just flows right into my hatches. So these hatches, they take on water when I capsize, they take on water when I don't capsize. And even in addition to that, putting hinges and latches on top of where you're going to sit just causes problems. So I should have centered them, done small raised hatches. So my hatches are just wrong. That's my 6th problem. To wrap up, there are a lot of good reasons to build a Goat Island skiff. It's fun, it's fast, it's relatively easy to build. So I like learning about small boats, and when you build something that's expertly designed like this, you probably pay attention to a reason or two that it's made the way it is. And Michael Storr would probably wince to hear me say it, but I don't regret the modifications or the mistakes that I made building this thing. When you make a mistake with something like this, it forces you to recognize the reason for things being designed the other way. So in this boat's brief lifespan, hopefully I learned a thing or two. Something that I did realize though is that if I'm going to have a boat on a trailer, right now, for me, it's not the Goat Island skiff. I want something that if I'm going to go and fight crowds at the dock, I want something that I can launch and then me and my wife can escape on. You know, something that we could launch, sail off, see where we get to, and then sleep on board. So that's what the next build is going to be. And, you know, I've got a handful of car toppers that do for me most of what the Goat Island skiff would do for me. They're not as fast, but they get to the end of any dirt road on the back of my truck or on top of a car, and they carry a couple of people or some people in some camping gear, and they're fun to sail. So the next boat that I'm going to build, you can see I got some wood set out already for it. It's going to be a cruising yawl for 2 that goes on a trailer, and it's the boat that I cut up this Goat Island skiff to build, like an open cruising yawl for 2, about the size of a pickup bed to sleep on board. But it's going to have I took some risks in the design, you know, and there might be some negative trade-offs that I don't see. But learning by trial and error is fun. So when I get there, you know, maybe I'll say everything went wrong and I'm just going to cut that one up. But I'm optimistic about it. I'm always optimistic, I guess. That's part of the fun with building small boats, is the ability to tinker and make your own modifications. Videos detailing the builds of 2 of those car toppers are on my channel. The plans that I used are embedded right in the videos. Building and sailing small boats, it is a ton of work, but the reward is proportional.